The Black economic empowerment policy has been contentious for some time, with its critics arguing that only the elite benefit and that it does very little to drive economic growth. Industry experts say for it to work, it needs to shift from being transactional to transformational. Business reporter Ntokozo Khumalo attended the Sustainability Conference in Midrand and filed this report.
The BE Chamber says the Triple BE legislation is an important piece of legislation when it comes to transforming the economy, but also seeing real sustainable economic growth. And for a little bit more detail, I am now joined by Yunal Padiachi, who's an executive at the Chamber. Thank you so much for your time. Now, in your presentation this morning, you gave a little bit of insight into the difference between transactional and transformational triple BE. Could you give us a little bit more detail around that?
Thank you for that. Yes, so what we are trying to do as the BE Chamber is to shift the mindset of business, moving away from this approach of transactional, broad-based Black economic empowerment, and rather shifting to transformational, broad-based Black economic empowerment. And what we mean by that is seeing how best business as well as industries out there can have impact on the end beneficiaries through their broad-based Black economic empowerment initiatives. So one of the key messages that we are sharing here today, as well as aggressively with our members, is always see how best you can have impact on the end beneficiary. Not year in, year out, complying to the legislation and treating it as a tick box exercise, where there's no sustainability attached to that. So what we are pledging here today is to speak about transformational BEE and share that message across South Africa to then benefit the country as a whole.
And now this discussion, some of the discussions that have been had at the summit include ESG and, those solutions around renewable energy and so on. And I think there is some correlation there when it comes to transforming the economy and, as you were saying, moving away from the tick box exercise. What kind of projects and what kind of, projects and strategies can businesses actually go for where they are seeing the difference that they're making in transforming the economy?
So I think importantly, businesses need to understand their own internal strategies and then adopt it to a BEE strategy. Looking at how best can we as business leverage of the BEE legislation, have impact on beneficiaries, but also allow ourselves as business to thrive in the South African economy. South Africa is quite unique in terms of our history, and why we've got this type of piece of legislation that is being implemented is, one, the concept of redress. We're coming from a history and a past of segregation as well as apartheid, and we need to look at how best can we then address those challenges, those inequalities, but in an inclusive manner. So business needs to adopt and develop their own internal strategies, amalgamate it then to the BEE strategies, and see how best you can leverage off legislation to thrive as business. So the purpose of the legislation is to help business grow in the long term and also in a sustainable manner to have impact on beneficiaries.
Now, it's not so much the BE legislation or triple BE, but some of the changes that we are seeing being proposed in the Employment Equity Act. We're seeing a lot of people flare up about that. Do you think that's justified?
It depends. You look at different pieces of legislation in South Africa, and I've got quite a number of years of experience of working with legislation, and you'll never be able to please everyone. You'll never be able to please every individual or business or entity in terms of the legislation that's going to be proposed by government. But what I can say is that there's always this collaborative approach. There's always going to be the opportunity for public commentary periods, and this is where those challenges or individuals that have issues or challenges with pieces of legislation to voice their opinions, to share, what are the challenges and what are the practical solutions. It's all about collaboration between the private and public sector. I don't think that you cannot then say it's just government that's imposing something on business, but it's about the collaborative approach to bring the two parties together to work together to come to a possible solution of implementation of legislation.
Yunal, thank you so much for your time. Of course, that's Yunal Padiachi, who is an executive with the BE Chamber, just talking us through the importance of really transformational triple BE as opposed to transactional triple BE, and saying that for it to work and really have a dent in economic growth as well as diversity in the economy, it is about collaboration, the public sector and private sector working together to meet those common goals of economic growth. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo in Midrand.